to Magna Carta Sports Network. My name is Wes, and I'm happy to have you. The NBA season has begun, and there's so much excitement around this time. For many of us, I'm not sure if you're like myself, but the summertime between that July, um, the season is finals ending, and then September, where NFL and college football begins, it's normally a bit of a boring season, kind of a down season. A lot of people are on vacation. You're traveling. You're doing everything you can. But when the NFL picks up again, and then after that, you get the NBA preseason, and then here we are again, start of the NBA season. So there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of different things that people are talking about. But today, I'm bringing you just some five things that I'm kind of focusing on and concentrating on. So without further ado, number one on that list was going to be, can the Warriors repeat? The Warriors have been a staple in our process, in our watching of the NBA for very close to a decade now, since Steph was denied that chance to being an All-Star, I believe, in 2014, I believe, and he took off from there. It's been a upward trajectory for the Warriors and their overall team. But this year, just in terms of last year, my thought process was, if it hadn't been for the Celtics kind of choking in a big moment, the Warriors wouldn't be NBA Finals champions right now. So I don't. They had the heart of the champion. They were able to execute and get everything done, but I don't think they were overall the more talented team. I don't think they were that deep overall. But seeing them this year, my thought process is that they are going to have a good season, but I don't think they're just as good as some of the other teams in the Western Conference. We'll see about that, but it'll be interesting watching what they decide to do in terms of their development. We had a video that we released last week just talking about the overall uh, structure and overall mentality of the team after the whole Draymond and Jordan Poole thing. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. The Warriors have already paid Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins, and they're facing a huge tax bill. So they're currently at $219 million in terms of salary, and then they're being taxed. Once you go over that tax number, their total, I think, bill is about $480 million, something like that. So any additional dollars they add is basically coming out of their owner's pocket. And at this point, for them to sign Draymond Green, which I'm sure he's hoping for, it's looking more and more unrealistic. So having that hover over the season, additionally, plus the fact that in my opinion, sucker punched his teammate, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. As no matter how much you may say I forgive someone or say this or that, in the heat of the moment, your true feelings will come out. And as time goes about, we'll be able to see how that plays out in terms of their team. I think the best thing in terms of their overall structure and in terms of preparing them for the finals would be to give the younger guys minutes. We all have seen what Clay and Steph and Draymond have been able to do over the past decade. But right now, in terms of what's in their best interest for having a chance to repeat, would be giving Jonathan Kuminga, giving Jordan Poole, giving James Wiseman and Moses Moody the opportunity to kind of take over during this regular season. The regular season is a drudge. You have to get up on a plane every night. You're flying different places. With those guys being in their mid-30s at this point, having them run 82 games and being the leading scorers and playing lockdown defense all the time is not what you want to have the best chance of winning an NBA championship. So looking at them, just hoping that they have that overall process of putting those young guys out there, letting them see what they can do, being able to develop their skill set and better prepare them for another championship run will be, I think, their best interest. The second thing I'm looking for would be, does LeBron has the one last run in him? LeBron has been a staple in sports for 20 years. I think this is his 20th season that he's played, and he has done everything. He had a one stretch where he went to the finals, I believe, 10 times in a row or something like that, or 9 times. I can't remember exactly the number, but he has been, he has done everything that he has hoped to become. It was very interesting. I've thought about it. I said, when he was 18 years old, if someone told you that he would have the career that he's had, Many would say that he overachieved. As crazy as crazy and as high as the bar was set, he still mostly exceeded what was expected. I remember back in 08, 09, where people were like, there's no chance that he would ever really be in a conversation with Jordan. He has firmly solidified himself as one of the three greatest players of all time. But the issue that I'm looking at with the Lakers is just overall management. The Anthony Davis trade, while they won a championship right now, I think Brandon Ingram is a much better basketball player than Anthony Davis is. He's more reliable. He's able to be on the court more. And just seeing, where they are right now, I don't have much faith that Anthony Davis will be able to run for a full 82 game season and then continue on into the playoffs. My thoughts that they're likely going to be in the play-in, maybe a 7 seed. I think best case scenario they probably become like a 4 or 5 seed. Likely scenarios that they are seventh or eighth seed. Worst case scenario they're ninth, 10th, or in the lottery even. So we'll see how that goes. They have a lot. They've added a lot of good players, but the Russell Westbrook element is going to hover over that team. Everyone kind of knows it. There was a scene recently where the whole team was huddling for the game, and Russell Westbrook was jogging around the court doing something. So that's not a great look for the idea of being a teammate. There was a contrast this summer. James Harden, who has been seen a lot as being a solo act, was in the same situation that Russell Westbrook was in. He had a $47 million player option, and then he had a chance to sign. And he was in his right. He's his contract. He could have signed that and taken it all, but he restructured his deal. I think his total number came down to about $33 million a year. That allowed them to sign PJ Tucker. They picked up Philadelphia picked up DeAnthony Melton. They picked up Montrezl Harrell. They picked up a number of people that would help to bolster their lineup long term. When you contrast that with Russell Westbrook, many people have talked about how he kind of focuses a lot about himself, and a chance for him to kind of extend his career rather than shorten it and just continue to focus on Mr. Why Not, the idea of him. He could have signed a shorter term, reduced level contract, giving the Lakers a little bit of flexibility, and then be able to show some goodwill, whether to him or to his next team, that he's willing to do what's in the best interest of the team. But he didn't. He signed his $47 million contract, which again, it's in his right. But just looking at it right now, as I'm thinking about Russell Westbrook, I'm like, which team is going to sign him next year? It's going to be difficult. He hasn't really embraced that role of right now. I think if he was committed, he'd be a great first guard off the bench. He could average 14 or 15 points a game, 7 to 7 rebounds, 7 assists. But it doesn't seem like that's something he's interested in. At this point right now on the Lakers, I think he is the third best option for guard after Patrick Beverley and Dennis Schroeder. So we'll see how that turns out. This season could go decent for the Lakers, or it could become a sinking ship pretty quickly. And if it does become a sinking ship, do the Lakers decide to trade Anthony Davis? That'll be an interesting one to watch as well. The third thing I'm looking at is, will the Sixers and Nets finally get over the hump? I have been a Sixers fan since Eric Snow and Allen Iverson were man in the backcourt all the way back in '98. And we'll see this year whether or not they're able to take those steps. But just watching over the years, the Sixers, Embiid overall, his body isn't really built to go 82 games and then take another 20 games or so to make it to the finals. You watch him run, it's like a lumbering. That they were playing the Celtics tonight, and as you're watching him play, he looks like that he's struggling to get up and down the court. Every time he falls, you're like, oh man, he's going to get hurt again or something like that. And then your second leader on the team is James Harden, who has a history of kind of flailing in the playoffs. You're led and captained by Doc Rivers, who has the most 3-1 losses in NBA history. There's just not a lot of good vibes around the team overall. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But even as a Sixers fan, I'm not too optimistic that it's going to get much past the semifinals. Hopefully, get to the conference finals. Something happens good, but I'm just not that optimistic about that. The Nets, they have been interesting. Kevin Durant, for the most part, without a championship run of his own, being able to really take a team and show that he's capable of being driving factor for why a team gets to the finals. He still hasn't been able to do that. And the thought of he won a championship only with Steph Curry is still hovering over his career. He left. Steph and the Warriors won a championship, and possibly could win another championship this year, which would be pretty bad on his resume. Um, I think people would really take away, like the two championships he won, he joined the best record team in NBA history, 73 win team that lost in Game 7 to LeBron James and Kyrie Irving. So seeing what they can do this year, the Nets are really stacked. They have Kyrie Irving, who's playing for a contract. They have Ben Simmons looking to reconstruct his career. The Nets have made a lot of shrewd moves, adding different players this summer. They've rounded out their roster pretty well. So we'll see. Again, it all depends on how good Kevin Durant can be after that playoff series last year where he mostly got outplayed by Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and the Celtics. It'll be interesting to see what he decides to do. It was pretty epic summer, asking to be traded, asking for the coach and the GM to be fired, and really getting nothing that he really desired. So we'll see how that turns out. The fourth thing I'm looking at here is going to be surprise teams. Which teams are going to be able to step up and to kind of overtake what they have done last year, but by the additions of whether draft picks or trades or additional signings, growth in a young development, how many people will be able to really extend themselves to become a higher tier team in this year's playoffs? A few teams I'm looking at will be the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland added Donovan Mitchell this summer. They have a really good starting four. Uh, their only thing is they're missing is a good 6'8" wing player to kind of defend at those bigger wings in the Eastern and Western Conference. But we'll see how that turns out. They should have a more improved record. Darius Garland had a great season last year, along with Jared Allen. It should add a lot having a second ball handler and a scorer in Donovan Mitchell. Hopefully, Evan Mobley's ready to take another step forward. Their coach is doing some great things, and we'll see how that goes. The Timberwolves, they gave up a lot, but they added Rudy Gobert. While in the playoffs he might not be all of that, I think he should add a lot to their regular season efforts, and that should help them to get a better seed. I'm sure they're hoping for a top 3 or top 4, maybe a home court series this year. That would be excellent. And can Anthony Edwards take that next step from being a good player to being an actual superstar? He has all the talent in the world. Cat should be ready to be at number 2, and we'll see where that goes from there. And the New Orleans Pelicans, they have they had a great season last year. At the end, they started off the season terribly. They got the news that Zion was hurt early, and the team kind of went into a sputter. But Willie Green did a great job of coaching those guys up. They got them prepared. They had a midseason trade for C.J. McCollum, and they gave the Phoenix Suns everything that they could handle in that first round matchup. They lost, but the young guys are older. Herb Jones is ready to take another step forward. They got Trey Murphy. Uh, Zion Williamson is back. He got hurt with an ankle injury this year, but if everything comes together, they should be a very interesting team that no one wants to face in the playoffs. And finally, my fifth thing that I'm thinking about is who gets Victor Wembanyama. That is going to be an interesting thing. It's going to be shameless. Tank season is going to be on. Teams are going to be watching their guys, and if you're helping them win too much, these guys are going to get traded at halftime. It's going to be a fun watch. I'm sure the Jazz, the Spurs, the Magic, maybe even see how that goes. But the Charlotte Hornets are definitely a team in there who've had some rough situations happen to them as a team. But overall, we'll see how this overall year goes. I think the Wembanyama thing is a serious one because if he gets to Charlotte, if he gets to the Jazz, if he gets to the Spurs, he reconstructs a whole lineup. The most important thing I think in the NBA basketball is being able to have that foundational piece, that piece that you can build from. And once you have that, you're able to then go out and make a signing here, make a signing there, be able to bring people in and to build a culture. So whoever is able to land the big guy, 7'4", it looks like, shoots the three. Everyone says he reminds them a lot of Kevin Durant, the French, the French Durant. We'll see how that goes, but this is going to be an interesting year watching what teams are willing to do just to be able to get that prize possession at the end of the year. Many more things we have to talk about here in the coming days and coming weeks. I'll be releasing my NBA predictions for who will be the NBA MVP, who will be the most improved player, who make it in the final four teams in the playoffs, and then who will win the championship. Stay tuned for this, and we should have more to come for you. Thank you so much for joining, and please like, share, and subscribe. Have a good day.